Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to give you a quick update on my Pan That Palette project for this year. If you have not been following along with my project, I will have my intro linked in the description box down below. But I am joining in with the Pantastic Ladies prompt this year for a fun-sized palette, and then I also decided to throw in a palette for the Better Together prompt, and in doing so, I am hoping to get some really good use on the two oldest eyeshadow palettes in my collection, my Smashbox Cover Shot Major Metals eye palette, and my Wet n Wild Color Icon in my Glamour Squad. I started the year off with some really good progress at the end of January, beginning of February, and I definitely have slowed down a bit on my usage on these palettes. I've just been using other things, I've been traveling a lot, and these palettes don't necessarily travel super well. The Smashbox is all metallics and no mattes, which makes it not really an ideal travel palette. And my Wet n Wild palette is broken. The lid is just completely off of the packaging. So again, not an ideal palette for travel, so my usage has been a little bit lower, but I still have some exciting progress that I want to share with you, so let's just get into the video. So I will go ahead and insert what my Wet n Wild palette was looking like at the last video. I started the project off with one pan in the kind of neutrally brown shade, and at the last update I had hit a second pan in the lightest champagne gold shade. So I started off the year with two pans in the palette, and here is what my palette is looking like today. So you might notice a sneaky third pan in the palette. I did hit pan in this lightest transition shade, which I'm really excited about. In the last update, I had mentioned that I felt like I was getting close to pan on that shade, but that I didn't know how many uses it was going to take me to get there. And so I am very happy to report another pan this update. This shade I've used 26 times, and I hit pan on the 26th use. So very proud to have a pan to show. I was nervous I wasn't going to have any pans in my next update at the last video, and I'm very happy that I do. So now I will go through the rest of the shades, how many times I've used them, and talk you through my goals for the next update. So I will insert a picture on the screen with the number of uses just so it's easier to see, because these shades don't really have names, and so it can be a little bit tough to talk about the palette and which shade I'm referencing. So I'll insert that photo. As I mentioned, the lightest transition shade I used 26 times, and I hit pan on the 26th use. The champagne gold shade that I previously mentioned, I had hit pan after 9 uses, and I used it an additional 3 times for a total of 12 times in the project so far. The yellow gold shade, I mentioned last time that I had a pretty significant dip in this shade, and I feel like that dip has gotten slightly deeper. I'm thinking this will be the next candidate for hitting pan. So far, I've used it 9 times. I'll try and give you a little close-up of what that shade is looking like so that hopefully you can see the dip that I've got going. I think if I start using this consistently again, I could hit that pan pretty easily by the time of the next update. But after that, I really don't know which shade would be my next contender for pan, honestly. I'm thinking potentially one of the 2 remaining shimmers in the palette, but we'll just have to see. Burgundy Matte I've used twice, which is surprising because that's one of my favorite shades in this palette. I think I've just been focusing so hard on other things, but there's plenty of time to get the use on that shade, so I'm not too worried about it. The black, on the other hand, I've used 21 times. I've been using this pretty much every time I reach into this palette for a liner shade. Moving to the top row, the lighter rose shimmer, I've only used 3 times, so lots of usage to be done on that one if I'm going to hit pan on it anytime soon. The more plummy shimmer I've used 4 times. I've really been enjoying this shade for more of like a cool tone purpley look. This palette does lean very warm, and I am at my absolute palest at this time of the year, so some of these shades are just pulling so warm and orangey on me right now, so I've been kind of trying to find ways to do a little bit more of a cool tone look with this palette, and the plummy shimmer seems to be my best bet for cool tones. So I'm thinking I will focus in on this one as well for the next update and hopefully have a nice dip to show you. The Rust Orange Matte I've used 19 times. I mean, there's definitely some usage on the shade, but still nowhere close to pan. There's not a dent, there's not a dip, there's not really anything that I can show you. Another one that I'm just feeling very pale for at the moment, so hopefully in the kind of warmer months I will be wanting to reach for more rust oranges, kind of like I have on my eyes today. The neutral brown, as I mentioned, already had pan to start, so I've actually only used that one time all year. I've been focusing my efforts on other shades that don't have pan because my goal for this palette is to hit pan in every shade by the end of the year. I'm sure I'll come back and try to expand that pan later in the year, but for now it's sort of just on the back burner. The darkest brown transition shade I've used 28 times. Again, I'm reaching for this one mainly as a liner shade. There's definitely some usage in the pan, but no sign of pan anytime soon. There's still a lot of product to go, and these darker shades in this palette are very pigmented and a little bit goes a long way. So I'm thinking the deepest mattes are definitely more long haul shades. So I think after hitting this pan, I sort of took a break from this palette and I'm ready to come back to it now and hopefully continue with my progress. So for the next update, I am going to set some goals. I would really like to come back and have a pan in the yellowy gold shade. I've only used it 9 times. It took me 12 times to hit pan in the champagne gold shimmer. And that's really the only baseline that I have for how long these shimmers are going to take to hit pan. As I said, I've got a pretty good dip going in this one, so I think if I really work hard on it, I don't think pan would be impossible for the next update. I definitely want to continue my use of the more plummy of the two shimmers on this row. It would be really nice to hit pan in one of these, but if I could just have a really nice dip to show you next update, I think that would be a little bit more realistic. So 1 pan and 1 really nice dip, I think would be a realistic goal for me to hit by the next time I come on camera and update you about this palette. So that is all my updates for the Wet n Wild palette. I've also pulled in my Smashbox Cover Shot Major Metals eye palette as a Better Together palette because they do have complementary color stories and I do like these palettes when I pair them together. My goal for the Smashbox palette was just to use it more, and to be honest, I haven't really been using it very much at all. This is another one that's definitely been on the back burner, so I need to get back into using it. I think, again, it's just these warm shades are not what I'm vibing with at this time of year. I just feel so pale right now that reaching in for a really warm gold or a red is just not, it's not making my heart sing when it comes to makeup. Very much living in cool tone land right now. I think I used this palette 4 times since the last update, something like that. I have down that I used the shade Heat Index twice, but I haven't touched that since the last update. So all of those uses are from the last update. And then the shade Chandelier, which is the lightest champagne gold, is the only other shade in this palette that I've touched, and I've used it 16 times. So I can insert the footage of what this palette was looking like last time, and then I'll show you what it's looking like today, but there's really been not a ton of change. I think I showed you last time I've got a little bit of a dip going in the shade Chandelier, and I still do have a dip. It might be a fraction deeper than it was. If I were to hit pan in any shade, my money is that it would be on this one. But again, this is the oldest palette in my collection. My goal is not to hit pan really in anything, it's just to get some more use on it. So I need to get some more use on it. So I am going to pull this one out and try and remind myself to reach into this one, especially into this more like taupey shade here. That's kind of the most cool tone in the palette. while I'm living in my cool toned winter skin. I can be working on that shade. So maybe that will be my goal for the next update, is to have some nice usage on this taupe shade. And then I can think about moving into some of these other shades when the warmer months come and I'm feeling a little bit less pale and ghostly. So that is my update. That's everything. Thank you so much for watching and for following along with this project. I'm hoping my next update I will have at least one other pan to share with you and a bunch more usage. Let me know in the comments down below if you are doing a Pan That palette this year, if you're working on a Better Together set of palettes or a fun size palette. I would love to know how you are progressing. It's always so motivating to hear from you all and hear how your projects are going as well. If you are new to my channel or you would like to follow along with this project, don't forget to subscribe before you go. Give the video a like if you liked it, and I will hope to see you in my next video. Bye!